Welcome everybody to Economic Development and Community Engagement Committee meeting. Our agenda is our committee goals today, and I'm excited because I have some great updates. We also have a couple of great speakers with us tonight. So for those who may not recall or maybe weren't with us last month, we settled on 5 goals, and I think we're going to hear updates in person on 2. And since that's where we have traction, that will probably take us to the end of our meeting time, and then I'll just email any static updates out to the other committee members if needed. We may have Greg join us, but if not, then we'll table the conversation around the welcome experience until he's able to join us. So for those who may not recall, we've decided as a committee to create a welcome experience to our city. And our city planner had provided us with a template for that. And so when he's with us again, we'll move forward on that. But this time, we're going to move on. A couple other things that were tabled but are under the umbrella of this update. Hillary Cannon is with us, and she's going to be providing an update on the quality of life planning process. That process is, that planning process, that steering committee, one of our goals is to support the work in terms of how ideas around business surface and ideas around community engagement. So for now, we've decided to table our conversations around neighborhood associations or any type of resident work groups until we hear the report out. And so Hillary, if you would go ahead and share with us what's going on at this point. I think we've had 2 updates so far.
Okay, so you guys know what the process is, so I don't need to rehash all of that, or
you
want
don't
me
need to rehash all of the process. So I can quickly say, as a committee, we're aware that residents have been interviewed, and that there will be a report out on June 23rd. There's flyers on the table for everybody, and we'll get it posted online in different places too. But if you can be helping the committee members know what's going on right now, how can we still engage and support, and how can residents support?
Right. So the big thing is June 23rd. There's a meeting at the high school from 9 a.m. to 2. Anyone and everyone is welcome. We want as many people as possible there in any and every capacity. So if you are a resident, we want you there. If you're a council member, we want you there. If you're a business owner, we want you there. That meeting is really the next step in the process. It's a two-pronged meeting. The first part is a report back. So we're going to report back what we found in these surveys. We interviewed almost 100 people here in Norwood, and most of those were residents. There were a few business people that maybe don't live here but have a lot of interest here in the community, but the vast majority were residents. And we're going to report back. We'll have speakers. It's not just the steering committee. The speakers are all coming from those people that we interviewed that will be speaking about 8 areas that were clearly priorities. So out of those surveys, we created this giant spreadsheet. We asked everybody the same question. You may have heard that: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats facing Norwood. And we dumped those all into a spreadsheet, and then we spent several hours clustering them into topic areas. And what was really interesting about that is that it became clear pretty fast that people in general had the same thoughts. Like there wasn't a lot of differences. People are all kind of on the same page already. They might be saying it in slightly different ways though. And it was also interesting in that a good example is our housing stock, right? Housing stock came up in strengths. Housing stock came up in weaknesses, housing stock came up in opportunities, and housing stock came up in threats. It's clearly an area that we need to be talking about. So one of the areas that we will be talking about is housing. Infrastructure, same thing. Infrastructure meaning roads, parks, buildings, like just general, like not just city properties, but just general like layout of the city. Infrastructure, again, came up in every single area. We will be talking about infrastructure at that meeting. So that's kind of where the steering committee is. We have this team of leaders that we've identified through this survey process. We're working with them about their story, and they're going to be telling their personal story and why this matters to them, and kind of why it matters to the community. So that's the report back part. The second part of it is the visioning session. So we're going to bring everybody to the high school. We're going to tell these stories about these areas that are clearly priorities and issues that need to be kind of tackled according to residents, according to the people here. And then we're going to break out into groups. We're going to have tables and pens and paper, and we're going to ask people to think about Norwood 10 years from now. If we're having a big community celebration 10 years from now, what are we celebrating? What is the thing that we're happy about, and how did we get there? Who did it? What projects made it happen? And then start the work of getting from where we are now to that celebration 10 years from now. So at the end of the day, I hope people leave that meeting really excited. That will not be the end of the work. We have support through this project, as I'm sure you've heard before, LISC of Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, which is the agency that's helped a lot of the placemaking work in Walnut Hills and Madisonville, Price Hill, a lot of these communities. They are helping us. We will also be working with some other folks to take those Interact for Health and some other agencies and agencies here in Norwood, Woven Oak, Community Coalition, Neighborhood Services. So we'll be taking those visions of Norwood and trying to, again, categorize them. Okay, we had these initial areas. Now what areas do we have? Who can take ownership of those areas? And what are actionable items? So those are if you don't remember anything else about this project, the two things to remember are that it's resident-led and it's meant to be action-oriented. It's not meant to be a pie-in-the-sky dream. It's meant to be something that we can, what we've heard from communities that have gone through the process is it usually takes a couple months, 3 months or so afterwards before you get that plan. And you'll be meeting, because what will happen is there'll be meetings after that. You'll identify leaders at that visioning session and ask them to come get involved, take ownership over these projects, and you'll end up with a plan. That plan's not meant to sit on a shelf. That plan is meant to be worked and to be checked off. Madisonville is a really good example. LISC helped us connect with the leader of the project in Madisonville. Her name is Sarah Sheets. She spoke with us last week. Their plan is 6 years old, and if you go through their plan, they've checked off almost every box. And the way they did that was by having, again, this process where the residents create the vision, they get buy-in through the visioning session, through the breakout groups after the visioning session, and they find organizations or other partners to help contribute resources and time and all those other things to make these projects happen. So that's kind of where we're at. We're right in the middle right now.
That's great. Are there any questions?
I think I appreciate the interest in our community. What was your connection with Norwood previous to this plan? Do you live in Norwood?
I live in
Did
Norwood.
You say that? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, thank you for the interest in the community.
Yeah,
So-
I've lived in Norwood for about 4 years now.
Okay, great.
And we have people on the steering committee. I mean, one of our speakers has lived here for 35 years. So we have a good mix of like kind of newer folks and also some longtime residents that are really deeply involved in the process.
Wonderful. Thank you.
One of the things I've appreciated most as it relates to our committee and our goals is I think this is a group of residents who, as the themes shake out and as the report out and visioning happen, will be good resources to make connections around the city. We've all talked about there's lots of pockets of good things going on, and this process allows a plan to surface, and people who want to work it begin doing that. And I'm hopeful that as those groups take shape, those groups will start coming and reporting. That way the city is aware of what it is residents want. We don't have an intermediary. It's just citizens and government when it comes to shaping what happens here. And so I'm appreciative that the steering committee has come when they've been available to, and really believe in that as that work continues to take shape, we get to be a platform to make that direct connection to the administration. So it's not the one-off emails and people getting frustrated because their calls can't get through, but really, as a body, as a committee, we can help lift that up.
Yeah. You asked, Leslie, ways to be involved or to continue to support the work. And as I said, coming to the meeting is a great first start. That's the next logical way to be involved, is coming to that meeting. We're feeding you. There's going to be some breakfast and some lunch. And you can drop in and out. We really hope you'll stay for the whole time, but hopefully you'll be engaged enough that you'll want to. But I think that both parts of that meeting, both hearing from the residents, because again, you're going to hear from a couple topics are doubling up. So you're going to hear from roughly 10 people, but they're representing 100 people. And we tried to pick, when we picked those 100 people, I'm sure you've heard this before, we tried to hit as many different kind of factions, for lack of a better word, or subsections of the community as we could, right? So that was the first survey, the representative survey. This meeting will be the next representative survey. Being there is a huge, and trying to get as many people, your neighbors, your friends, your business partners, getting them there, that's how you can help us. Because the more voices, the more likely this plan is to actually be the representative plan that we want it to be.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Eric, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. So those flyers that you have as you're going throughout the rest of the month, encourage you to join the rest of the committee. Post them wherever you can. Share them with neighbors. I know I'm going to do some door-to-door in Ward 1, just getting the word out. There have been lots and lots of people involved, but this is a chance for anybody who wasn't interviewed to show up and hear what's going on. It's not an exclusive process at all. It's a very normal process in lots of communities across the nation. And so for those who've been longing and waiting and wanting to see Norwood move forward, this is a way to help with that momentum.
Awesome. Yeah, do you mind if we Xerox these and if I want a few more of them? Sure.
Yeah.
Please
I have
do.
more too. There's
Sure.
more.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Hillary. Appreciate your time. As I said earlier, so quality of life in Norwood, one of our goals, Hillary spoke to that. We also talked about the neighborhood associations, or some type of opportunity to engage residents in decision making would be tabled. So that's 2 of our 5 items already covered. Greg, can you come and join us? Thank you. Greg, man, you get quite like the entrance. You got all the air swirling.
That's right.
Greg Orris is joining us, our city planner. And before you walked in, Greg, I was thinking we would probably table discussion of the economic development process, that guide, as well as the Welcome to Norwood experience. I'm not sure that we have any updates just yet.
Yep.
So those are our other 2 items. I will share, just as a quick follow-up, I almost forgot this. Hillary mentioned LISC. They are one of the sponsors providing technical assistance for the quality life planning process. We did discuss in our last meeting economic development tools, the entertainment business district or the entertainment district. Because there are some ideas that are forthcoming, the way the planning process works is depending on what is reported out, depending on what residents want to take action on, then some of the funders who have been engaged might be able to stay engaged through different tools they have available. So I wanted to make it clear we're not abandoning that conversation. We just want to make sure it's synergistic with what folks are saying they want to support. So with that in mind, there's a person here, Ben Clark. He's with Queen City Clay, and he reached out to say he's liking the idea of moving his business to Norwood. So our other goal was to really think about ways we could hear from developers, not necessarily a small business, but a business that wants to be here. So I'm going to give Ben the floor to share about who he is, what he does, and why Norwood's appealing, and just help us understand what you're interested in.
Great. Thank you very much,
Yeah, I was
Leslie.
gonna say, definitely use the mic.
Scoot in closer. Hillary, that was so cool to hear what you were saying, because one of the books I read just a few years ago was Love Where You Live. So many of those communities started just like that, where you're listening to the residents, you're going on crazy ideas, and even small ideas that spark so much interest and get the whole community fired up. And I would like to be a part of that celebration in 10 years. So my name's Ben Clark, and like Leslie said, I own Queen City Clay, and we are one of the largest public clay studios in the country. And so we are currently over on Wasson Road right behind Hyde Park, and we rent about 25,000 square feet. And that's all pottery. So you can come to our studio and learn how to throw on the potter's wheel, or hand build, or do sculpture. You can rehabilitate there. You can come in just for 5 minutes and do the pottery painting studio, where something's already made and you just decorate, and one of our fine arts painters will teach you how to create an amazing surface on there. We have a retail shop where we sell to all the schools, so we sell them clay, tools, equipment, and then we run free programs for teachers so that they understand how to run a clay program in their school safely. And we do this with incredible passion, because one of the things I realized when I became a professional potter was, if you put a kid or an adult or a senior citizen, whatever their age is, on the potter's wheel, and you teach them how to take a pile of nothing and turn it into something functional, beautiful, whatever, it changes them. It makes them look at the world differently. It's that big. We have people who have, we had a guy who was 100 years old still coming to the studio, and they couldn't get his medication right. And he said, if you can't fix my medication, I want to be done, because I have to get to that studio, I have to make sculpture, that's what I do.
Wow.
And it gets to that level of passion. And so what's happened is our business just keeps expanding. In this 25,000 square feet, we're bursting at the seams, and we're up to 200 students coming through every 8 weeks. Rental space for artists, and now we've started renting to professionals who want to run their business out of our shop, so they have the support of our whole crew. So it doesn't stop there. I have a million ideas that I want to put out into the world, and I don't have the facility to do it. So I started this search, looking all over, and there are those neighborhood redevelopment groups that can get you a building for almost nothing, and you invest a lot of money to put it back together, and you change the neighborhood. Looking at Norwood, it's so centrally located, and we have access to everything there. And when you're servicing all the schools in the region, it's really cool to have a spot like that. Plus, you have this really neat industrial district that is nestled in the residential areas, so there's the residential all the way around. And when you look at what's sitting in that industrial district, there are a lot of companies that interact with the community by putting something major on their website. They're dealing with the world, not their neighborhood. We can teach them how to deal with their neighborhood, show them what is possible, and interact. We can also soften that line between the residential and industrial area with a couple of the buildings we're looking at. And what I see is, if I can get a hold of a building over there, within months, you will see drastic changes in the building, where I have artists creating murals and mosaics across the outside. I have one of the best earthenware artists in the entire country, who's right here, Patrick Doherty, who would start doing architectural ceramics, like big Greek columns around every door in the place. It would be a destination. And not only that, it would be a place where you have 200 to 250 students coming to the building every week, looking for places to have lunch and dinner. You have corporate events where Procter & Gamble, GE, Jergens, all of these companies, Kroger, are all coming to do their day outside of the office, to do their decompression day, all of that at our studio. We also have field trips coming from as far as Cleveland, where the kids get up at 5 in the morning to drive the bus all the way to our shop to spend a day on the wheel, and then go home that night.
Wow.
So I've got all this energy and all these ideas, and I just need a big building. And I've got a few that I'm looking at. But I'm the vision guy and the artist guy, and I have a business partner who's the business side, but neither of us have picked up a giant business like this, which is giant to us, not giant in the overall scheme, and moved it somewhere. So the ideas of zoning and all of this stuff that I could make a huge mistake doing, right? I need to know more about that. I need help. I need guidance with that. And I also need to know whether I can, looking at it at an early stage, fit right into this vision that you all are developing for Norwood and for the next 10 years, for that future. Because if you talk about a place where you want to make it a better place to work, live, raise your kids, and a better place for community involvement, I am your business. I can do that, and I can spark all kinds of excitement around that area. And I want to do that, and I'm just waiting for the place. So that's where I am, and I love that spot. I love the industrial district over there, and so I'm looking for guidance, and I'm looking for questions from you guys of what you would like to see for a business like us moving into the area.
I'll go first. I've got a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. My
Yeah.
background is in art, so I love the idea of having a studio of any kind in our area. It places like that, the creativity within those places tends to spread out.
Absolutely.
And it becomes infectious in the area around it. So I think it's fantastic. I would love to see this city, or honestly whatever city you end up with, really partner with you to get through some of the zoning issues and things, because it's what you're doing. It's not a common type business.
Right, it doesn't fit in a mold.
It doesn't fit in a mold. You're not gonna come in with architectural plans that are down to the doorknobs and stuff, because you're going to want to make those yourself. You know what I mean? So it's like you need to have a building department that's willing to work with you, and I would want to make sure that our building department wanted to do that with you and saw the value in that, because I think it's an incredible idea.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's good to hear. Thank you. Any other questions from you guys?
So just to clarify, you're not looking for another building, you're looking to move your business to a
I want to buy a building, and I want to expand, and I want to, create my vision, right? Because right now we're sitting in that Hyde Park Oakley line, and the area is changing, and prices are going up, and the business side of it. I'm dealing with these owners who don't live in state, right? And they're a group of investors. So they come in and they say, well, the prices over here are going up a little bit, so we're going to need to, increase your rent this much. Well, the art business doesn't make a ton of money, even though we can keep getting bigger and bigger and impact a huge amount of people. I can't create that vision with that type of stress, right? I need a building that's mine, and a city that's ready to embrace that type of thing and let me go. And it's all community minded, it's all community based, and right now I have 42 people who interact with the business as far as employees. Some of them coming in just to teach a 2-hour class, some of them full-time employees. I have a program where I'm training potters to become professionals, and then we've got 5 of our artists who have come up through the ranks who are now running their own business, selling to restaurants in the area, and people who are teaching in grad school. And so the model works, and there's so much more to be done, and I just need that place, And so we even have a building we're very excited about, we're looking at, and we're in the process of talking to the owner, but at the same time, it's those things like, do I get into this building, and then because of it being light industrial or industrial, does that hinder me at all? Or does the city have the ability to help me navigate certain things, or are there incentives, or what is there to help me? Even just guidance through the process is what I'm lacking, because I've never done it before, and I've got all of these people who this is so important to them, and if I screw it up, it's terrible. And it's also my family's financial future, you know? It's like, that's what keeps us going. So just need help. That's what I'm looking for.
Sounds like you're in the right direction.
Good.
And our secret's out. Norwood is Norwood is sought after.
Yeah.
And we have endless resources. And so you're looking in the right place. We appreciate that.
Well, and the other exciting thing about Norwood is the fact that, you know, I started this process just a few weeks ago. My brother's name is Andy Clark, so I looked on the website and I called Andy and I said, I know this sounds crazy, but your name jumped out at me. And within minutes, I was contacted with several people I could talk to, start to move forward with this. And now I'm here able to talk to you guys. And other cities can't do that. It just doesn't happen. So I just feel like my entire business, everyone's excited about it, so we hope it works out. Yeah, so any other questions, or you guys got the idea about the business?
Great.
Slightly passionate about it, but yeah.
That's great.
Any questions?
No, just Leslie and I went out there and met with Ben on site and took a look kind of around everything, and it was really well done and exciting place, and anything that you need from assistance from us, we'll be glad to help. And I can work with you as well with other city staff and kind of get you through some of the zoning things, and we'll just look at it. Luckily, obviously, industrial is one of the most permissive in general, so that's a good start.
Okay.
But we have to just sort of look at things like to allow you to do murals and all of that, and that's things that we've been looking at as a city in general.
Yeah.
And then worst comes to worst, we can also look at potential PUDs over it, which are planned unit developments, which allow you a little bit extra flexibility.
Okay.
Potentially on things. But I think it being in the industrial zone, I don't see any immediate red flags.
Okay.
So if it was in a
Excellent.
commercial, I saw some concerns just when you had the different, I don't know what your prep, not presses, but your ovens.
Yes.
And things like that.
That's right.
That would jump it into an industrial classification, but I think being in the industrial zone, we should be safe on most.
Okay, great. And if this moves forward very quickly, what's my best recourse as far as, you know, when I have these questions? You know, this is going to be something where, because of how fast buildings get snatched up, you know, there's so many investors out there looking for those opportunities. And for somebody like me, you know, if it's not like under the radar almost, where someone is willing to take a chance on us, we don't have a chance with a lot of this. So if I do get locked in and we start moving forward fast, where do I go with all these questions? Do I address everyone and then you guys filter me in the right direction, or how does that work?
Well, typically, so we've taken it so far this far, but like our building commissioner and the administration, they're the ones who will be able to further lock in some of the different tax abatements or different things. So really the largest one that sticks out to me is our CRA program. That's where you just pretty much you lock in the value of the building today. So whatever it is on the auditor's website, you lock that in today, and then you get some type of abatement, whether it's for 10 years or 15 years. You have to get agreement from the school district for 50% of it, because really 50% of your taxes goes to the school district. But so what that does is any increase in value that you put into the building, any improvements and all of that, are able to get abated in essence for that time period.
Okay.
So that's
Gotcha.
probably your like number one sort of the incentive structure that I can think of off the bat.
Gotcha. And overall, do you feel like as you guys are working through, you know, piling up all of your ideas for what you want for Norwood, a business like that, and in that location would somehow fit into your current vision? And the reason I'm asking that is because we're a business that we listen for ideas, right? And if someone has an idea that's creative and exciting, we want to try it. And it might not fit into our original, you know, clay center, but at the same time, we'll try it. And if we know overall what your goals are as a collective, we can even manipulate that vision to work better with the city as a whole. And so that's something you might want to think about as we're trying very hard to move forward and make Norwood our new home, how can we change as a business to fit with you guys as well?
That's what I think a lot of your vision sort of was stating. For one, a couple of the locations that you're looking at are almost like the transition from a pretty heavy industrial area, obviously with Rumpke and all of that, into a residential area. So your business being almost like a retail with a minor sort of industrial component to it, I think is a good segue just for planning purposes. You know, it helps to step down the intensity of the uses.
Yeah.
And for two, I think with everything, I think that's your both of your sort of pushes for this community, and the arts is a great way. And I think a lot of us have always seen Norwood as in segments as a neat artist component to it, and just an eclectic sort of view with it. And to me, it fits in well with that.
Yeah.
Okay, good
Especially
deal.
with your passion and your interest in being involved in the community.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think one of the things that excited me and what I would guide you to think about, and we can help with this, is even talking with the school district. I know you already have an existing relationship with lots of schools, including Norwood, and so maybe getting their vantage point as well. As
Okay.
you heard from Hillary, our planning process is underway, but if you're able to talk with administration about some type of abatement, well, maybe there's a parallel conversation with the district about what art programs look like there. So it's not a complete wash for them, but maybe a better exchange. Even totally ideating here, but as you're training those future professionals, maybe they've got some special experiences with students,
Yeah.
welcoming them into the trade. And so any type
Excellent.
of exploration with the school district, I think would be a win, given that's already a prime business arm for you. And we have a school district that loves providing opportunities for youth. Maybe even thinking about broadening that to, are there family artistic experiences you could offer?
All right.
I think would be a benefit. To your other question about, what's next as it relates to putting together a business deal, I think that as we as a committee have the opportunity, always, we report out what we discuss to the rest of council when we're done discussing. So if we were to feel today, yep, let's report this out, then we can always be asking the rest of the body, do we want to make a recommendation? Do we want to make a letter of affirmation, like we would welcome this business, or things of that nature? And so I think that while maybe a little bit of a different approach is another way we could support saying, we think this fits.
That'd be great.
I like how you've expressed it, Greg's echoed it. I think that's where Eric started, just in saying, like, you're wanting to bring a very attractive business here for a lot of reasons, not just the placement, but who you draw. I know there's potential to keep bringing in, quote, outsiders.
Yeah.
And that would have ripple effect for other businesses too. So those are my thoughts on kind of the guidance piece, but mostly just talk with the school district and see how that could be a good partnership.
I do have one more question for you guys too. Have other neighborhoods in Norwood formed like a neighborhood identity, where you go to Denver and there's the Rhino District, and there's and you go around and in each district they have a list of galleries and places to see and everything for people who are just looking around. Has that happened in any other neighborhood yet, or is that a active thing?
There's sort of some pre-existing neighborhoods that we know, and we discussed this years ago, and I hope this kind of comes out of sort of this venture, is to create a little bit more self-identity in districts with that, and establish what those districts are in the minds of the residents.
Well, I came over because I don't know that exactly districts have come up, but certainly one of the things that came up in the survey so far is like community engagement and programming, which this is like a lot. And I think that there's a desire for that, if that makes sense, to have like a district or to have that identity. I think there are some kind of pre-existing ones that exist that
Yep.
people self-identify with. there is a desire to get past some of those identities and make all of Norwood realize we're all of Norwood, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to have an entertainment district and to feel like we are a destination, and so.
Well, and what I've seen is the reason I think about this all the time is I've been working really hard to get the largest ceramics conference in the world to come to Cincinnati, right? And this is 5,500 potters, all of the greatest clay artists in the world. They all send their work. They all come to the area. We would be the second largest destination besides the convention center for that week. So most likely our shop would get 3,500 visitors that week to walk through and explore wherever we were. And when you have those big explosions of people outside, in order to get them to really explore the city, it's fun to, just block it up and say, in this quadrant you're going to hit these places, in this quadrant, and that's any business who's interested in being a part of that little tour, which gets people to not just hit one spot, but to literally explore an area. And Greenville, South Carolina was amazing with that, where they had a kid just make little bronze mice. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it was just this thing where the kid asked the city for grant money and got these little bronze mice made with this foundry locally, and they placed them in businesses downtown, and then they wrote little stories about the mice, and now people from all over come there and get their little pamphlet and walk around as a family searching and reading the history of each section of the town, looking for these little mice. And I think it cost them $1,200, and so things like that to get people to explore is something that I would love to look at, to open up the idea. Is seeing Cohen Recycling as a place where there are just big piles, but also seeing it as a place where families can go get cool objects and then make awesome things for their front yard, or add to our building with found object art or things like that, changes the face of the industrial district completely. So if that's already in the works, I want to be a part of that as well, and if not, I would love to be, if this all works out, something, one of those members that helps steer that. So
I do have a question, if I
Go
can.
for it.
When you say the industrial district, where exactly do you mean?
So if you're over in that Highland Avenue area, and
Yeah.
you've got recycling and
Yep.
the Shepherd Chemical and like that grouping of buildings there,
Yep.
is what, in my mind, what that is. But
Okay,
am I kind of right in that?
Oh, yeah.
that's
Okay.
absolutely,
Gotcha.
there's a couple other areas I thought maybe, but
I
that's
gotcha.
fine.
Okay.
When I listened to your ideas, did you have a question? No. When I was listening to your ideas about destination, just having places for people to go, I echo what Hillary said. I think there is a desire. We used to have walking paths, I think, that were designed through the health department. It's a faded path, but there are remnants of it. I think there's been talk at different times partnering with the Historical Society. I think there is a tour, but like if it's self-guided or like where it takes you, I don't know. I know I've been asking around a little bit about that myself. When you talked about the mice, though, I thought of Norwood Rocks. We have residents, children too, who paint rocks.
Yeah.
And there's a Facebook group, it's called Norwood Rocks. And they hide the rocks throughout the world, really. They've left the country, but they all say Norwood Rocks is the goal.
Yeah.
And so a fun idea, I was just thinking, if you had a session, I mean, say this idea takes off, we've got this conference going on, like we can maybe have pop-up Norwood Rock sessions, and then folks could go out and hide them. It's a fun idea. I didn't realize they were doing that out west, but I think we're feeling like there's some energy around this idea. Do we feel like we would be ready to report out to council that there's a business that wants to come and we would be glad to have them?
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Are you already looking at a building and you have one in mind?
Yes.
Are you able to tell us which building that is? Or
As this is televised, I would rather not
Sure, I understand.
currently, but
It's all right.
Sure, I
soon.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, I do though.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's, energetic and fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greg, anything else?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, this was a great meeting. We've got our update on the quality of life process. The report out's coming June 23rd. It's at Norwood High School from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The report out is first, followed by the visioning session. All are welcome. It's at the Norwood High School. In the mini auditorium, a light breakfast and lunch are going to be provided. We've heard from Ben Clark with Queen City Clay. Thank you for coming and sharing about your passion to join us here in the city of Norwood. We'll be able to report out that as a committee, we like the idea of you coming, and we'll share that with the whole of council, and then at that time can discuss, is there an ask we might make to the administration in terms of considering some type of investment opportunity. Just as a quick recap, we've tabled the Welcome to Norwood for today. We'll get back to that packet of experiences and sponsorships. We've also tabled the conversation around the associations to make sure it's aligned with what residents are needing as a result of the visioning session. And then hopefully we'll all be able to make it June 23rd. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you for your time.